And what is going on, everybody? I am Mike with Obviously Outdoorsman. Welcome to the Obviously Outdoorsman podcast, and welcome to First Light Talk number 43. And today's topic, 6 spring turkey tactics to lay yourself down a big ol' tom this spring. All right, whether you're chasing some thunder chickens up in North Jersey or shooting some Osceolas down in Florida, all right, these are going to be 6 spring tactics to get a big tom this season. And turkey season is a great time of year. You're able to hunt an animal that responds to you. It's not just deer hunting where you sit and wait and they can just come at any old time. All right, you can run and gun them, you can stalk them in certain states, or you can sit in a blind, let them come in, put on a show, attack your decoys. It is such a fun hunt to hunt turkeys. All right, and I'm going to go over 6 tips for you to lay down a big tom this season. All right, let's start off with number 1. And whether you are a seasoned veteran turkey hunter or a brand newbie turkey hunter, these tips are going to apply to everyone if you're having trouble trying to lay down a turkey and if you've had troubles in the past laying down a turkey. So number 1, find their roost. And this is an obvious one. You can hear this one everywhere. Find their roost. All right, especially for spring turkey season, you can go out there weeks beforehand and just do some locator calls, some owl hoots or crow calls, or even just making loud sounds just to get them to gobble early in the morning. Or you don't even have to do any locator calls. You can just go to certain areas at first light and just walk around and listen. That's all you really have to do. Listen to where they're thundering out on the roost. Whether you start in one place one morning and then you move on to the next place the next morning, but you really only have about an hour window, or really not even, maybe only a half-hour window of them gobbling and thundering off on the roost. So you really could only do about one spot a day for doing it yourself. If you have multiple people in your hunting party and be like, hey, you head over there, I'll go over here, and you go over there, and we're just going to try and find toms on the roost. And just because you find one set of toms on the roost in one area, try and find as many as you can pre-season, because then once it comes to the season, you're going to have multiple spots that you know turkeys are roosting at, and you know there's going to be toms there, not just hens. So finding their roost is a great tactic. And if you want to try and find their roost during the day, try and just walk around the woods and you find maybe some feathers, a whole bunch of turkey droppings under a nice limb in the woods. Wherever you find these type of things, that means they're roosting up there. Normally they roost in the same area every night unless they have an issue with predators or they get spooked off their roost to where they got to find a new roost, or later in the season if they get beat up and then they turn into a satellite tom and they have to find a new roost and find a new area. But normally they will find the same roost to sleep in every single night, especially pre-season during this time. So just go out there. If you're going to do it early in the morning, try and just listen as much as you can. Maybe each day do a different spot just for a half hour in the morning, maybe before work, or if you have an off day, just go out there and spend the morning listening and then going and just walking in the woods trying to find turkey feathers, turkey droppings, and you'll be able to find their roost, and it will set you up for success when it comes down to turkey season, because then you could just go in there, you know there's turkeys in the area, and once you're walking in early morning and they start thundering out, you can adjust your setup to where they are roosting. All right, number 2, do not overcall. This is probably one of the biggest mistakes that I have done myself and that I have seen people do over and over again. And I still tend to do this from time to time just because I love hearing turkey gobbles. I know a lot of people have this issue because it's fun, it's exciting, it's thrilling. When you hear that turkey gobbling, you're like, okay, he's over there, and you want to know exactly where he is to come in on a string right to your decoy or within shooting range. So a lot of times when I hear him thundering off and thundering off and thundering off, I just keep calling because I love hearing them gobble. But you have to make sure you don't overcall. Leave them hanging, really. Just leave them hanging a lot of the times, and I'll go over this later in this podcast. All right, the last 2 tips are one of the most important tips for you for spring turkey tactics, and definitely just wait for that. But definitely do not overcall. Just call, and once they respond, every now and then do some calling. Number 3, patience to an extent. All right, patience I also have trouble with, because when it comes to turkey season, I am more of a proactive turkey hunter, meaning I don't like sitting in a blind and calling and waiting 15 minutes and calling and waiting 15 minutes and calling and waiting and waiting and waiting to never hear a gobble. All right, the whole thrill to me with turkey hunting is hearing a gobble, and it's quick. You can literally locate a turkey, sit down, and within a minute they can be on top of you if they run in onto your decoy setup. It can just happen so quick, it's not even funny. But you gotta have some patience, and a lot of times if you just have a little bit of patience and then switch up your tactics, that's when it works. But this is where scouting comes into play as well. If you find where they roost, and then you set up in a location that maybe you find some fresh scratching, some fresh feeding areas, you know they make their way off the roost into that area to feed. So maybe if you sit in that feeding area, whether it's whatever they're eating off a dead log, maybe they're eating ants, I don't really know what they would be eating, but they're scratching in all the leaves, and it's very easy to find turkey scratchings in turkey's feeding areas. You just got to put a little bit of work in and just be observant. Look at the ground, see where it is, and then this is actually the tactic I used last opening day in New Jersey to harvest my turkey. Every year they roost basically on the same ridge or the same couple ridges, but I know that they're always feeding on this one ridge. So I walked in, I didn't hear a single gobble off the roost walking the entire way in the woods, and it's probably about a half-mile walk. And I got up there at first light, didn't hear a single gobble. And it was a little bit windy that morning, and I made my way up to the top where I see turkeys every year. I normally call in 1 or 2 turkeys on that spot every single year. And walking up there, I didn't really have time to do much scouting, but walking up there, I was able to see obvious turkey feeding areas, turkey scratchings where they hang out every single year. So I just set up there, and I waited about probably an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, just calling intermittently every 15, 20 minutes and just getting aggressive, trying different things, but I didn't overcall. And I kind of just sat there and then I got aggressive with my last calling sequence and nothing happened. So I got up, and being that it was windy, I walked to the other side of the knoll and made a call. And I was like, okay, and I really only walked about 40 yards from my original spot. It was very close. Everything could still hear from where I was calling from. And then I called that second spot, and then I'm like, okay, I'm going to go work up the next ridge. Maybe it's windy, they're not moving too much, and I'm just going to try and get to a spot and close enough to turkeys to where they can hear me call and respond, and I know they're going to come in. But I made that second sequence of calls from the second spot, and I said, okay, I'm going to make my way over there. I turn around, I literally walk 10 steps, make one more calling sequence, and like 3 to 5 gobbles just all at once, just thundering. And I was like, oh, crap, they're right on top of me. And if I just waited another 20 minutes, not even, another 10 minutes, and just sat there, they would have been in, and it would have been easy. Everything would have been on camera. But that happened. I sat right down. They were able to peek over the hill at like 30 yards, and I was able to harvest my turkey. So you got to have patience to an extent. So what I like to do, I like to sit maybe the first spot if I know they're in the area. Maybe I know they're roosted there, or they have roosted there, or it's you see their feeding area and it's a good productive spot every single year. Then I'll just set up there. Maybe it's a nice flat, and I'll just sit there for the first 2 hours and call intermittently, because if they're not responding, they really probably can't even hear you. So maybe they're not in range of hearing your yelps, your cuts, whatever you may calling with. Maybe they just cannot hear you. So just give it some time, let them work around off the roost. Maybe they're working their way to the feeding area. And then when they finally get in range and you lay a call, they can just be right there and make a hard left and come right into you. So I like to sit for the first maybe hour and a half, 2 hours in one spot. And then once I get to that like 2 hour mark, that's when I start working away from where I set up at, because I like running and gunning. So what I like to do, sit for the first 2 hours in one spot, and then the rest of the day, or if you can only hunt till noon, wherever you may be hunting. So I'll sit from sunrise to like 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, and then from 9 to 12, I'm running and gunning. Meaning I'm just walking with my gun over my shoulder, and I'm calling. And every like 50, 100 yards, I'm calling. I'm doing a yelp sequence. Maybe I'll give it 5 minutes and do 2 sequences in the one spot. Just give it some time and work your way, and you're basically just getting to an area to where birds can hear you and then work their way in, and you're finding the turkeys. So patience to an extent, and then run and gun. All right, number 4, be still. And this has burnt me in the past, not being still, or the people I'm with not being still. Turkeys have amazing eyesight. It's unbelievable. And it's rumored, and my mom believes it too, that if they're close enough and you're moving your eyes, they can see the whites of your eyes moving. All right, they just have amazing eyesight, and you have to just be stone cold still to not ruin a setup. Because if they're coming in, maybe you're hunting a field or you're hunting a flat in the woods, and they're coming in and they're at 60 yards, and maybe you don't have a decoy out and they're looking for something, and they just catch you move your arm slightly a little bit, and then they get wary and they work away and they gobble, but they don't see the hen, so they're going to work around and try and find where that hen was. But they saw that you moved and it was a little suspicious, so they just moved on. So this is where a decoy may come in on taking the attention off of you, and they're focused on the hen decoy and they're coming into that, and you could basically get away with a little bit more movement in the background being the hunter. They're focused on the decoy, not you, and they know that that hen, your decoy, was making the calling, and they're just going to come right into it. So gotta be still, whether they're coming in or they're working their way around. Maybe you're not set up and they just came out of nowhere. Once they're in shooting range, you have to make it quick. If you're using a shotgun or whether you're using the bow, if they're in shooting range, let's say 30 yards and in, you just got to pick up your gun and blast away before they spook. Because if you're trying to move slow and try and get your gun and your pin settled, and it's just like, okay, it's a lot of moving parts and you got to take your time, but you also got to make it quick because they will just bust and just be out of there. All right, number 5. This is one of my most important tips that I can give you, and one that I have learned over the years, and people have told me multiple times, but I never really did it. But it definitely makes sense. Go silent. What I mean by that, it basically ties in with don't overcall, but I'm talking go silent. Let's say you're sitting off a roost. You're hunting a roosted bird, and you know he flew down and now he's gobbling off the roost, moving around. And you call, maybe you do 1, 2, 3 sequences, and he's responding to each one. If he's responding to every single call that you do, then shut up. Go silent. Don't do another call. Pique his suspicion and make him come to you. Because in nature, hens go to the toms. That's how it is. Toms don't go to the hens. The hens do all the work. They are the ones that go to the toms. And you just have to play their suspicion and basically the man-woman role in society. Think about it of when if you're texting a woman, all the men out there, you're texting a woman and then they ghost you. And then you're like, okay, well, I'm going to double text or triple text. Or be like, why are they ignoring me? Blah, 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 blah. Go silent on them, because then they will get fired up and be like, well, why did they stop talking to me? So you call, and especially if they're responding to every single call that you do, every single yelp or cut or purr, whatever it may be, every sound that you make, and he's responding to it, just shut up. And if you have a decoy out, he's going to work his way to you, because he's going to be like, well, why did she stop responding to me? She's not coming to me. And then they're just going to work their way and try and figure out where you went and try and find you. Go silent. It's one of the biggest tips I can give you. Once you get them gobbling, then try going silent. Play with them a little bit. Make them gobble 2 to 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. But if they're gobbling quick in succession, they're fired up. Just hit them with some fired up yelps and make them come to you. Go silent. Biggest tip I could give you. But lastly, number 6, another really good one. Find their strut zone. It's important. Most turkeys have a strut zone. It's where they like to hang out. It's where they like to show their stuff and just put on a show. And I have multiple spots like this that I know in the afternoon, if I don't hunt them on the roost, I can go to this field and they're strutting it up in this field every single day, or almost every day. Or on the ridge, I know they're just going to be there. So you can set up off of that field in their strut zone, whether they may be with hens or not with hens, or if they're just strutting just randomly, you can set up pretty close to them, maybe 70, 100 yards away, and just bring them to you. They're hanging out there, and if they're henned up, that's going to be a little bit harder, but you just got to find the way to do it. But find their strut zone. It's pretty easy to do. Most turkeys have that. They'll work their way off their roost, go to their strut zone, or go to their feeding area, but sometime during the day, they will go to the strut zone and work their magic, fan out, puff up, and just try and work that hen. They do it every single day. Strut zone, very important. But my number 2 tips for this, go silent and find their strut zone, and you will be a more successful turkey hunter. And if you've had any issues in the past, try these tactics out And I guarantee you're probably going to have more success this turkey season, this spring turkey season, if you do everything correctly. Be still, have patience, don't overcall, find their roost, find their strut zone, and go silent. Play with them a little bit, get them gobbling, and then just shut up and just watch the magic that happens. Because I know a lot of people have the issue of getting turkeys gobbling, but never seeing the turkey. They gobble, and they gobble like 40 times, and then they start gobbling, moving away from them. And they're like, well, I had him fired up and he was coming in. Yeah, well, you probably overcalled, because that big Tom was just going to be like, okay, this hen's coming to me. She's fired up, she's talkative, she's going to come right to me. And then when that doesn't happen, then they get suspicious, because that's how it's supposed to happen in nature. So that's it, guys. Try these tactics out this spring turkey season and let me know down in the comments, or email me, obviously.outdoorsman@gmail.com. And let me know how your season went, or if these tactics helped you harvest a big Tom, or your first Tom ever, or just what you think about these tactics, or let me know what you want me to talk about next. Give me a topic, give me some suggestions. I'm trying to help you guys out, become better hunters, become better fishermen, and I highly believe in all these tactics and all these podcasts and tips that I am doing. And I'm just trying to help you guys through my knowledge and my failures, and all of the knowledge and stuff that I have gotten from other hunters, and all the collaborations that I've had, and just experiences throughout the years. That is it, guys. If you guys want to check out our hunting and fishing videos, our adventures, head over to YouTube and you can find all of our hunting and fishing adventures that we have. And if you guys are on Instagram, that's where we are the most consistent, posting on the stories, daily stuff happening, whether it's gym stuff or hunting stuff or fishing stuff or funny stuff, whatever it may be. A lot of that stuff goes to Instagram and Facebook. So no matter where you are, whatever social media, we are there posting daily content, and we are trying to keep these daily podcasts going. And just share this podcast with any one of your hunting buddies, or any one of your family members, anyone you know that you think needs to hear this podcast. Maybe it'll help them out this spring turkey season as well. Just share it with them, and like the video, like this podcast, and just share it with anyone. I am Mike with Obviously Outdoorsman. I thank you guys for watching, the people that are here on the daily basis or have listened or watched our stuff before. Thank you for being a supporter, and I thank you for just tuning in to these daily podcasts. And if you are new, please hit the subscribe button, please follow us, and stay tuned until tomorrow's next daily podcast, First Light Talk number 44. Tomorrow's topic is going to be 3 items that are essential for shed hunting, 3 things that are a must-have for shed hunting and make it easier to find sheds. That is it, guys. Hope you guys have a great day, and just shred it up. Stay stealthy, my hunters. Later.